Celtic enter transfer race for Wembley hero. Excited Kris Boyd on, who will rightly start as league title favorites after 49ers news. Thierry Henry tells Jamie Carragher, don't make statements with Celtic claim before Champions League final. Celtic set to cut their losses on Lagerbielke. Hit like to keep the videos coming and subscribe so you never miss a single Celtic bombshell. Right then, buckle up because the green and white rumour mill is in full swing and this one's got a bit of everything. Celtic are dipping their toes into the transfer market once again. At this time, the target is a young lad by the name of Harley Mills. 19 years old, lays for days and apparently not afraid of the big stage either, having scored in the EFL Trophy final at Wembley for Peterborough United. That was in a tidy 2-0 win over Birmingham, if you're keeping score. Now Brendan Rodgers, clearly not one for sunbathing during the offseason, is on the hunt for fresh legs down the left flank, with Greg Taylor all but out the door and Jeffrey Schlupp heading back to Crystal Palace after his short Highland holiday. There is a bit of a left-back vacuum. Cue the entrance of Kieran Tierney, making his grand return from Arsenal, presumably with a hero's welcome and a physio on standby. But as lovely as that reunion sounds, Rodgers knows better than to put all his green eggs in one fitness-prone basket. Hence, the interest in Mills, who, in true football fairytale fashion, was playing non-league football at Enfield just last season. Now he is apparently worth over £1 million and has Premier League Fulham sniffing around. Not bad for a lad who probably still gets IDD, buying an energy drink. And while some are raising eyebrows about whether Celtic can really tempt a rising English talent to be second fiddle to Tierney, history might be on our side here. Remember Matt O'Reilly? Plucked from League One obscurity and now lighting up the Scottish Premiership and beyond. So why not Mills? If anything, it would be another sharp-eyed swoop by Paul Tisdale, the man upstairs pulling the strings and clearly not afraid to roll the dice on young potential. Thing is, convincing someone to come north for a potential bench role is never easy, especially when there is Premier League money floating about. But at Celtic, it is not just about the paycheck, it is about the badge, the atmosphere, the chance to play European nights under the lights at Paradise. That is the kind of football and education you do not get at Craven Cottage on a wet Tuesday. Should Celtic really be chasing another teenager from League One to play behind Tierney? Or is this just the board taking the cheap option, instead of properly investing in a first-choice left-back? Well, would you look at that? Kris Boyd is smiling again. After months of watching Celtic collect silverware like it was going out of fashion, the former Rangers striker has finally found a reason to be cheerful. Why? Because the 49ers have completed their takeover of Rangers, and suddenly it is all cowboy hats, dollar dreams, and talk of closing the gap. To be fair, the man deserves a bit of hope. It cannot have been easy watching Celtic lift both the league title and the Premier Sports Cup, while his beloved Ibrox lot stumbled through a season of missed chances, mysterious tactics, and more injury updates than goals. But even Boyd, in all his blue-tinted glory, had to admit the obvious: Celtic are favorites. Rightly so. His words, not mine. 17 points. That is not a narrow gap or a small margin. That is a gulf, a chasm, a footballing Grand Canyon. And just to add salt to the wound, there were 42 goals between the sides. You could drive a team bus through that difference and still have room for the mascots. Yet here we are, with Boyd chirping about strength and depth and comparing dollar bills to trophies. He says Rangers must emulate Celtic's depth after watching the boys rotate the squad for fun and still cruise into the cup final. Meanwhile, back in Ibrox, they are still searching for a manager, still shopping for players, and still dreaming that investment alone will change everything. Overnight, let us be absolutely clear, Celtic are not just ahead on the pitch, they are ahead off it too, financially stable, led by a manager who has already proven he knows how to win trophies in Glasgow, and backed by a fanbase that expects, not hopes, to lift titles. The real question is not whether Rangers can challenge, it is whether they can cope with the pressure when the heat is on. If the roles were reversed, and it was Celtic finishing 17 points behind, would Boyd be preaching patience and potential? Or would he be calling for heads to roll? Well, there it is. Just when you thought punditry could not squeeze in another Celtic reference, in stroll Thierry Henry and Jamie Carragher on the Champions League final stage, to remind the whole world who really lit the European torch first for Scotland, and by who, we obviously mean Celtic and the Lisbon Lions. Now, The final itself saw Paris Saint-Germain finally get their European crown, battering Inter 5-0 and writing their name into the Champions League history books. Fair enough. It is a massive achievement for the Parisians and for France, who until now only had Marseille flying that particular flag. But just before kickoff, Carragher, bless him, tried to sneak in a bit of revisionist history. He pointed out how France was previously sitting on just one Champions League winner alongside, wait for it, Scotland, Romania, and the former Yugoslavia. Then came the real kicker. With all the confidence of a man who once got turned inside out by Thierry Henry at Highbury, Carragher boldly declared that none of those countries will ever win the Champions League again. And what did Henry say? Quick as you like, don't make statements. And honestly, thank goodness he said it. Because if there is one thing you do not do before a European final, it is try to erase the legacy of the Lisbon Lions with a smug little throwaway line. Sure, no Scottish club is lifting their trophy tomorrow or next year, but let us not pretend that winning the European Cup in 1967 with a team made entirely of local lads is not one of the greatest feats in football history. Carragher's remark came off like a man who cannot quite wrap his head around the fact that Scotland, yes, Scotland, got there before Arsenal, Paris Saint-Germain, Manchester City, and just about every team in the modern mega-money game. The irony, Carragher's own Liverpool side needed Istanbul-level heroics to win in 2005, whereas Celtic simply played everyone off the park in '67. Was Jamie Carragher right to dismiss Scotland's chances of ever winning another Champions League? Or is that kind of arrogance exactly why football always finds a way to humble people like him? The old summer shuffle begins, and it looks like Gustaf Lagerbielke might be packing his bags once again. Back he comes from FC Twin after what was, to be fair, a solid enough season in the Netherlands. 32 appearances, a tidy 6th place finish, and not a single reported disastertless. But even with that steady run, the writings on the Lennoxtown wall, Twente's top brass are basically saying, thanks, but no thanks, pointing out that what they need is a commanding leader at the back, and Lagerbielke, it seems, just does not scream defensive. General in their book, it is not personal, it is just football. They are after their own Robin. Proper clone, and Gustaf is not that guy. Now, let us talk about Celtic's point of view. Brendan Rodgers, never one to mince words or waste time, is clearly streamlining his squad. Lagerbielke, along with Luis Palma, Mignav Rodsky, Stephen Welch, and Marco Tilio, all seem to be in the departure lounge, a full-on Postecoglou. Clearance sale, if you will. And when 4 out of 5 names on that list arrived in the same transfer window, it is not just an indictment of the players. It is a not-so-subtle nod to the recruitment strategy of that era. The Swede only managed 7 Premiership appearances before being shipped out on loan, and with Austin Trusty already slipping behind Liam Scales in the pecking order, it is clear that Rodgers wants fresh faces at center back. Maybe someone who can lead from the back, shout a bit, throw in a crunching tackle, and organize a high line without causing palpitations. Cutting losses seems to be the theme here, and while Lagerbielke might still have resale value, it is hard to see him breaking into the team. Now, he is not a disaster, just a misfit in a system that has moved on without him. Was Lagerbielke ever given a fair chance at Celtic? Or is he just another victim of a transfer window that never really had Rodgers' stamp on it to begin with? If you enjoyed the video, make sure to subscribe so you never miss a beat from Celtic's wild ride. And do not forget to check out yesterday's video. It is absolutely explosive, and you will want to see every second of it.